I would like to introduce you to our family, and I'm going to call them all up. I'm going to start with my grandmother, Sherry Van Campen. She's coming up here. Oh no, all the way up on the stage.
What she doesn't know is we're going to offer her all.
Has a variety of roles and titles. My mother does a lot of work. I can't even begin. Obviously, this is her heart and vision. Erin puts up with us all, so let me just say that that's the most difficult job of everything. My Aunt Diane has been amazing with coordinating all of our food, all of our catering, our hospitality master. Christy and Tony have done everything from public relations, PR, calming all of us down, running errands, fixing everything on this property, and our chicken mansion in the back, which we don't have chickens yet, but we're gonna get them. And they're gonna lay golden eggs. And last but not least, my grandmother. I'm not gonna tell you how old she is. She's like 49 and a half. But she still comes out every single day before all of us are awake and have had our coffee and has trimmed trees. So this is our family. Oh yes, she's painted every single wall in our entire house, trimmed every single tree. She's better with a saw than I am. In any case, I wanted you to know our family. This is why we're here. We couldn't have done this without volunteers, but this family is a steam engine. So I just wanted to introduce you. You guys can all sit. If anybody has any questions and you can't rush up here to ask me, this man, I'm going to point him out, Masa James. Just raise your hand. You can ask him anything, and if he doesn't know the answer, he'll make it up and sound extremely authoritative. So yeah. And without too much more filler material here, I want to introduce my cousin Christy. Come say a few things.
Okay, so I had to write it down because I didn't want to forget. First of all, I just want to thank everybody for being here on this wonderful day. You sat here and looked at my family standing on the stage. But when I look into the crowd, all I see is family out there. You guys are all part of this. You are all our family. And we've come together to accomplish a series of small tasks with one big picture in mind, something bigger than all of us. If we here at LZ Grace can help one person, then we are blessed. And each and every one of you have helped us do that. And I appreciate you so much, and I'm so grateful for you being here. Thank you guys so much.
Oh boy, this is unbelievable. Thank you. I was out at the fire pit and we were doing a special blessing with the fire pit and letting Timothy Bedford start the first fire as he well should. And I turned around for a brief moment and I saw all of you standing there, and I had to turn quickly back around to the fire pit or I would have burst into tears. There's no crying today. Christy.
Sorry. It just happened.
This was Steve's hope and dream, that he would have a couple cabins on the back of some acreage in North Carolina. And call his brothers, his SEAL brothers, as they came home from war and say, come down here. Lynn's going to cook. I'll fill in because we know how Lynn cooks. And you can rest. You can just rest and do what you need to do and then go back to life. And he's with us right here today, let me tell you. He has orchestrated this entire thing, and no matter what you believe and how you believe it, he's been on this journey. He does know I'm stubborn and I go big and bold with things. So this is a little bigger than 2 cabins on the back of some acreage in North Carolina. But we're going to do this, and we are, with all of you, with your love and support, with you just being here to add your energy to this. We are going to help some individuals come here, and families and couples, and they're going to heal from the trauma of war and go back out into the community and heal those people. And then they're going to come back and be mentors, and it's going to keep going until we are all a community. Thank you so much for being here.
Before I introduce our guest speakers, I wanted to also point out how many volunteers and donors and just people who've been involved in making this happen. It would take until next Tuesday to read every single name, to call it every single person. The bottom line is we could not do this alone. There's absolutely no way we could have done this on our own. Every single person who has donated a penny to more than that, who's put a finger on this property, who's done anything involved, it has been a divine appointment each and every step of the way. Without a shadow of a doubt, I can say that. We have listed quite a few people in our program, but we would have had to print a novel really to put them all down. So if you don't find your name in there, please know that we were thinking of you, and it was really just a formatting error on my part. Also, if you are looking at the program and you're OCD, like a few other people I know in this crowd, you will notice that it goes from civilian time to military time in there. Captain Bailey did not realize that he's going to be doing an encore speech at 1:30 in the morning. Him to stay.
He's probably okay with that.
In any case, yeah, all I can say about that is that what we're doing here at LZ Grace and what we want to do, the programs and the paperwork are never going to take precedence over what's really important here. So just overlook the typographical errors. And yeah, I would like to introduce Captain Bailey, retired Navy SEAL, who's known my father for a very long time, and I'll let him share his story and how he fits into LZ Grace.
Can y'all hear me okay? Do I need to speak to the mic? I do?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. It kind of brings tears to my eyes to see a vision realized. And I would never have put together an effort that would put together an outhouse. And look at what this team has done, what this family has done, what some of you have done. That's not part of my speech, but it sounded pretty anyway, didn't it? How did I get involved in this? I don't know it. It hasn't revealed itself to me, it being, I don't know what, but I'm involved, and I got involved through a series of coincidences, divine application, divine guidance, or whatever you want to say. I still haven't figured it all out, and I'm not trying to put too spooky a spin on it, but Lynn and Sherry and I have talked about some of this, and some of it was just a little bit beyond the pale. But back in the late 1980s, I was the commanding officer of Naval Special Warfare Center, known to a lot of the guys with short hair and long beards. Or should I say no hair and long beards? As BUTS, Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training. And one of my 60 or 80 instructors was a first class petty officer by the name of Steve Butkowski. And Steve was like so many other of my instructors. They were good looking, had piercing blue eyes, and had bodies by Fisher, and and I had to run herd on them. But, you know, I knew Steve. We spoke, and we'd exchange salutes in the morning, and he'd stop in and say hi every now and then. But, you know, we weren't particularly close, but I don't know, there was something a little bit special about Steve. I remembered it 20 years later. Was it 2006. My wife's favorite place in the whole world was South Point Mall in Durham, North Carolina. Because it's got both a Nordstrom and a Macy's. And there's a Hilton Garden Inn overlooking both of them. And we always specified we want a room overlooking Nordstrom. That hasn't cured her yet. Well, she's there right now, as a matter of fact. This was not supposed to be a comedy act. I just can't help but amuse people. But sometimes to my detriment. But anyway, I didn't see him until 2006. That was 18 years or so. I hadn't thought of Steve Bukowski. And I never had met his wife, to my knowledge. We may have met at a graduation ceremony, but I didn't know who Lynn Bukowski was. And I'm walking through South Point Mall, and about as far as it meets the camera, I said, "Steve, Kevin Bailey!" And so there we were, 1,000 miles from nowhere. Neither one of us thinking that we were anywhere close. And there we see each other. "What are you doing here?" "Well, I'm shepherding my wife and carrying her credit cards." And I said, "Where are you?" So we're in Norlina. "Well, what are you doing there?" Well, they couldn't quite explain. Lynn has since told me what Steve's vision was for having a rural piece of property and building an outhouse and a couple of cabins. And but they had, the next time I saw Steve was at his funeral. So that's the sum total of my acquaintance with this family, with these visionaries. And I still am trying to figure out exactly what role I have to play other than to put a pretty face up on the speaker's platform. But Steve was a low-key guy who was respected by staff and students alike out at Buds. Buds is where they train all the SEALs. And I always thought that there was a lot of depth in him. And it turns out I was right. And some of his depth was either transmitted or was shared by the people you've seen here before you already. What a shock it was for me going to Steve's house in Norlina. And if you ain't been to Norlina, you have missed a lot. But it was just a shock for me to see a much younger man than I leave this life at that age. But, you know, somehow you have to think that his departure at that time under those circumstances had some sort of preordained purpose to it, because without his passing, I wouldn't have gone to his funeral. I would not have reacquainted myself with Lynette and her family, and seeing that she was determined to carry on his vision. I didn't realize how much she was determined until I saw her last summer at reunion at Little Creek, and I could tell that she was well on her way. She brought me out here on Saturday afternoon, I believe it was, and walked me through all these buildings which had been cleaned up unbelievably. The fire pit was not, it was just a figment of her imagination. But you don't want to be around this lady too much when there's a fire pit around if you cross her, because I don't know, I think you may understand what I mean by that. When she decides to do something, if that's throw you in the fire pit, you might as well take your shoes off and dive in there. But when I went to Steve's funeral services, that was when I began to understand what kind of lady we were dealing with. I just got an inkling of it until last summer when I saw what she was doing out here. And it's been an almost spiritual experience to see Lynette acquire what was really a rundown piece of property. It wasn't even supposed to be available, and through a series of circumstances, somebody brought her out here to look at it. And she knew, is that right? She knew this was Steve's place. And so only a true visionary could have done what she's done here. I wouldn't have begun to do that. And the greatest testimony I can have to what she did is from her own daughter. Kids don't praise their parents unless the parent has had an extraordinary effect on their lives, as Annette has. She has talent, limitless energy, and an appetite for hard work. And what she had to have, nobody with anything less could have brought such a project to fruition. And I personally, not to put too much of a theological spin on it, but I think God ordained her and her associates, her family, and the people who helped her to do this special project for Him. God likes for us to have comfort. He likes for us to be with Him. He likes for us to be a part of a greater community of like-minded people. There's nothing wrong with, I've learned, I've been a SEAL since 1963, and it took me a while to tell another man, I love you. I told my daddy I love you on the day that he died, before he was even sick. And that meant so much to me that I don't lose a chance to tell anybody. I've always told the women how much I love them, but I don't miss a chance to tell somebody, even Mad Dog Madison, Mad Dog, I love you. Just an aside, when I was relieved of command, when I changed the command to put it in a different way. There were some things Jim Madison knew about that I could probably have been relieved for, but we had a little party after the change of command ceremony in Campbelltown, Scotland. And what was it, the Sovereign Bar? Is that where it was?
I have no recollection.
It's now there's 6,000 people and 32 pubs, so they take their drinking seriously. The last thing I remember is being tied to a bodyboard with duct tape. A bodyboard is what they strap you to when they think you might have a back injury. Hey, I was going to talk 10 minutes, but I'm doing pretty good. I'm going all afternoon. And they tied me to a bodyboard, and then duct taped me to a big stanchion, a big iron rod that was supporting the building. And I'm sitting there like this, and these guys are sitting there with famous grouse pouring down my throat. They wasted so much whiskey that night because the more they poured down me, the drunker they got. So they didn't notice when I let it leak out of one side of my mouth. Somebody told me today that there were things that happened after that. I have no recollection. But that's what brothers do. Now, talking about Lynn and her role in this, what she's done here, I don't know what could have possessed her to move from her rural real estate in North Carolina, and move to Virginia Beach. I can't begin to imagine what else could have prompted the resurrection of hers and Steve's dream to build a facility that would serve those who needed a respite from the pressures of combat or just daily life. It's been, even we guys on the staff, we used to have a lot of pressure, and wish we were back in the teams going out and doing funny things to bad people than being up there reporting to a captain or an admiral. Those of you who've been there know exactly what it is. Randy, you know what I'm talking about, right?
A little bit.
All right. And Lynn, I just can't tell you how much as a former SEAL, how much I appreciate what you're doing for the current generation of warriors and their families. These young men and women, their families, their kids, will be jump-started back into some semblance of a normal life. And I haven't been to Iraq. I've been up on the border of Iraq and Kuwait. I never went into Iraq. And God knows I've never been to Afghanistan, but the stories I hear from those guys coming back, kicking in doors, I saw some bad things happen in Vietnam, but they can't compare to what's happening to those young men over there and the pressure that they're under. And as I said, I think this will play a large part to jump-starting them to a semblance of a more normal life. And in closing, Lynn, I'm absolutely sure, as you hinted at earlier, that Steve Bukowski is right here, right now, listening to me. I don't know if he's clapping or sticking his tongue out, but he's with us. I can't think of anything I would rather happen to me after I died, assuming that I'm going to be hanging around somewhere, than to listen to people pay tribute to me for my dream and my vision, and know that I was a part of it. Lynn, thank you so much for the SEAL community.
Captain Bailey is slightly underscoring the importance of what he's been to our family. He's been a steady stream of encouragement to us, of wisdom, insight, and just his connections alone and his faith has kept my mother especially on a course when it was starting to look a little bleak. So thank you, Captain Bailey.